excited to bring back. We did this in April, I believe, in Stanford. It was really cool. As everyone in here knows, we're part of that 21st Century Consortium, and one of the schools that we visited is out there in Palo Alto. And so when we go to these high schools, that's right, a lot of times we'll go to the colleges for different activities. And the design school is something that really resonated with Blaine and I, because I think when we talk about things like systems thinking and collective impact and two-way feedback loops, I think this is kind of a how. And I know Blaine's come around and talked to you about your design teams and who's on them and what are they going to be working on. Here's a really good activity that helps you bring about all those things around that kind of that vocabulary list that we've talked about. So we're going to introduce this idea to you at the Stanford Design School. Let me just tell you really quickly what the design school is. It's a building on campus at Stanford, and it's very open. It's kind of makerspace kind of stuff. You kind of create your own walls and have areas that you're writing different notes down. And you can, as a professor at Stanford, you can say, I want to teach a class at the design school. And they say, great, but you have to have somebody from a different department team up with you. So an English professor, you want to team up with another English professor? Nope, get somebody from engineering and tech. Get somebody from history or whatever it is. So you get combined with another area, and then you go through a very specific design process. And the handouts I gave you really hit on each one of those steps. So step one, and we're going to walk through each one of these steps here today, is empathy, then define the problem, ideate, iterate, and then prototype and test. And what we learned with Stanford is they go through those stages with anything. So if you're trying to figure out how to eliminate malaria from a camp, from a village in Africa, they would literally start with this. They won't do it in 90 minutes, but they would literally go and live with the family, talk to the family, get empathy, understand what it's like to be living there and this issue, and to meet the people who have maybe lost loved ones, and seeing the risk and the danger when they go to bed at night, right? So that's how they get that empathy. So they might spend an entire year on a project or longer, right? The way they kick it off, all of their different groups they have come in, they do it with what they call the gift-giving experience, because it gives you an idea of all of those steps. But then you can replace the gift-giving experience with anything. In fact, I left a blank on yours, because ultimately what we're going to ask you to do on October 10th is the same activity that we're doing with you, but to do it around a goal back in your building. We'll talk about this at the end too. But what you might decide to do is the heat maps. I gave everybody a quick copy of their heat maps. Hopefully you know what your goals are. But you might say, as a building, we're going to focus on one goal on October 10th, and we're going to recreate this activity around that topic. Glenn and I had a conversation today. He's got 3 goals in his building. He might even say, you know what, let's divide the staff up into 3. We're going to do the same activity, but everyone's going to be doing a different topic based on what you're interested in. So maybe you have 3
With
different
the working
teams.
group, if you have a working group that's on that.
So you might have 3 different working groups, but just kind of planting a seed for what you might be thinking about as we do this. In terms of, one of you is, it's like you're hiring somebody to do work with you. So if I'm going to talk about this gift-giving experience, I'm going to hire Alan to help solve my problem that I have around gift-giving, and then he's hiring me as well. So you're going to take turns being the client, and sometimes you're going to be the customer. So it's going to kind of go back and forth. It'll make sense here in just a minute, okay? And what I would like to have you do is team up with one. I'll give you 30 seconds. If you could team up with one person at, I would just say, make sure it's somebody that's not at your table. So anybody else in this room, not at your table, okay? This is really to design a gift-giving experience for your partner. So you are going to take turns. One of you is the client, one of you is the customer, and then we'll switch. So every round, we'll say, you're this person, and then you'll switch roles, okay? But it'll make sense here in just a second. I'll wait till I kind of describe this. So the first thing we're going to do is start with empathy. And what I want you to think about is something around the topic of gift-giving. So maybe it's receiving a gift, maybe it's giving gifts. What's a problem that you have around the topic of gift giving? And I will share an example for you. When I did this activity, I worked with the person that has my role in Edina, Minnesota. And the thing I shared with him around gift giving is that my issue around gift giving is that I have a hard time receiving gifts. Not that I don't like getting them, but when my family gives me a gift, it's hard for me to find something that has meaning, because number one, I get the credit card statement. Yeah, so it's hard to call it a gift when I'm paying for it, right? And another thing I think about is maybe I'm getting jaded as I get a little bit older, but if I want a pair of shoes, I'm gonna go buy a pair of shoes. And if I want a watch, I'll buy the watch. So I'm very hard to shop for. So it's an issue for me. And so for me, it's more fun to give gifts and those bit of all you want to give a gift. You can certainly do that, but those are issues that I personally have with gift giving. So when I did this activity with my partner, I really focused it around that topic, right? So you have 2 sessions at 4 minutes each, and Greg's gonna kind of help me with keeping time, and we're gonna have to be really tight on our time. So what you'll do is Jay, you might share with Megan, here's the problem I have with giving gifts. I'm cheap, I don't like to go out and shop, or whatever it might be. My dad's like, both of that.
Check.
So you really do better than I've done. And then after 4 minutes, then you're gonna switch, and then Megan will say, oh, here's my piece. This is, I enjoy getting gifts, but I feel bad because I don't write thank you. So, whatever it's going to be, but you'll take turns. So you're going to solve her problem, she's going to solve yours. Does that make sense? So in the next step, we're going to dig a little bit deeper. So you were really just a good listener and jotted down the ideas. So maybe the person shared an idea that you want to learn more about, or maybe you noticed something in their voice inflections, like, oh, that was something that really stuck with them, or maybe there was some other sort of nonverbal that really jumped out to you. So because go back to what you're trying to do here. You're trying to solve a problem for your partner around that gift-giving idea. So in order to solve that problem, what questions might you have? So on mine, in particular that I shared that I did with Randy's his name, the assistant superintendent at IDEATE, I don't really like getting gifts because it's on my credit card anyway. So one of the things he asked me is, can you think of anything that you have enjoyed getting? As a gift, and I said, I was thinking about it. My parents, for a few years, as I started having kids and stuff, they would just give me like money, like at Christmas time. They'd give me cash or a check or something, and they were asking me, do you just want us to kind of do the regular? And I was like, I really don't. What I would rather have is, can you help me give rides to kids to soccer games? I have 4 kids. One thing my wife and I, we like to do like a little weekend trip. And I was like, take my kids when we go to Vegas this summer. That's a gift to me. So I don't have to stress about where they're going to stay and what they're going to do. Come stay at our house. So my parents are like, deal, And that's worth much more to me than cash. So it's time. It's helping me when we're in a pinch to get a ride to the kid. And for my wife and I to be able to get away for 3 days, right? So that was the type of thing, that he didn't know about me until he asked that question. And I hadn't really thought about it either. So he kind of found out right away that it wasn't so much like a physical gift that I needed. It was almost more of a service that meant a lot to me. So that's what I'd like for you to do. You have 3 minutes each, and it's going to be 3 minutes exactly to ask some of those questions and pull out maybe some of the things that you'd like to learn more about. Okay? Okay, on step 3 is where you'll be capturing findings. And at this point you will have talked with your partner, you've interviewed them, you've dug deeper, you've asked them some questions that maybe you had as you listened to them. And in this part here, you want to begin to be paring this down a little bit and think about, okay, what is my partner really telling me? What are they trying to achieve? And so in this example, what's the way that we're going to give gifts that would have meaning? And you want to think of action verbs here, things like you accelerated, you earned, you serviced, you provided, you reinforced, you shaped. What are the things that your partner's trying to accomplish? And during this time, it should be quiet in here. You're all working individually on your own. So for the next 3 minutes, you should be writing in the box that's next to item 3. Kind of whittle this down even more. So you've got all these ideas, you've interviewed your partner, you've captured some of the ideas that you think that what your partner is trying to accomplish. So now what you want to do is you want to define the problem statement. Does everybody see where we're at on that part 4? So Randy, for me, might have put something like, Mark Weichel needs a way to enjoy the gift-giving experience because he has gotten to a point where he does not enjoy it anymore. So it's really trying to whittle it down. At the end of the day, this is what I'm trying to solve into just one concise problem statement. Okay? You have 3 minutes again. you'd like to share your problem statement with your partner to make sure that you're on target. 2 minutes to share your problem statement with your partner, see if you captured it, please.
Sorry.
This great solution, like, okay, great solution, but you really didn't get the problem right. Did everybody feel like they were pretty good on their problem statement? So at least we had a chance to check that. Okay, down to one thing, and it's kind of cut through the noise. At the end of the day, what are you trying to do here? So yep, this is the problem. This is what I'm going to solve for you, right? So now, what you want to do, you want to flip the page over. Next step here is ideate the alternatives. So now that you're clear on what the problem is that you want to solve, what our folks at the D School in Stanford would tell you to do. And it says 8 minutes. We'll stick with 8 if everybody's done. Maybe we'll make that time less. But what they ask you to do in 8 minutes is to sketch 5 radical ways to meet your partner's needs. And they do say to sketch and not write them. And what the Stanford folks talk about is it just engages a different part of your brain to be kind of drawing and making symbols and different things like that. And I will tell you that if you get to 1, 2, and 3 and you're like, well, I don't have 5 ideas. I don't have a 4th idea, I don't have 5 ideas, I'm only going to do 3. What they told us is that you have to have 5. And so if you get stuck, think of little creative things like, okay, how would you solve this problem if you were on a desert island? How would you solve this problem if you were underwater? How would you solve, so all these different crazy things, how would you solve this problem if you had all the money in the world? How would you solve it if you had no money? So it makes you think of different things, and the cool thing with this way of thinking is that he said that very often you'll see parts of idea 1 in your final solution, but you'll pick up little tiny bits of maybe that came from those real creative things that you were thinking about, and you'll see those kind of make their way back in. So 5 sketches to solve your partner's problems in 8 minutes. Okay, on step 7, it says to iterate based on feedback. So you've at this point shared a few ideas with your partner, got some feedback, and now you're going to take all this information that you've done from your interview and your brainstorming, and you are going to come up with an actual idea for your partner right now. And in the space that is provided under step 7, we're going to ask that you draw. So at this point we've been writing and reflecting, talking and sharing, but at this point we want to use a different part of your brain, and we want you to actually bring out your artistic ability here and sketch your big idea. We are going to actually build a diagram or some sort of a model to demonstrate
a design. We're going to design
and all the different things of how you're solving this problem. And I'm going to give you a quick example. So Randy, when I worked with him, it was really clever. So he literally came up with an app that you would have on your phone, and it would have all my kids' practices in there and all my kids' names. And so if I wanted help from somebody to give a ride, that I could actually push it out to my friends who told me like, hey, I'm free on Tuesday nights. I could maybe give your kid a ride. So I could push this out to like family and friends that have said they'd be willing to get help with rides. And then they could accept or decline. So then you don't have to call every time, like so me on the way home from work, I'm like, hey, you could meet, whatever, it's on field 2, yes, we talked to me, So it's like all the information is right there. And then he was saying that part of the app would be then at my birthday, and someone says, oh, instead of giving you like a present, I'm going to gift you 5 rides. So you can kind of on the app kind of keep track of how many rides for that gift that's in there, and you can send it off, and you've got 2, 3 rides left. So I'm going to ask to cash one of those in tomorrow because I'm going to be running late. So it was kind of a neat little idea. So the model that he drew is he took these things, what are these called? I don't know.
pipe cleaners. Pipe cleaners.
So the pipe cleaners, and made little people out of them, and then he made it look like they were in a little car, and then he had string going from the pipe cleaners to different people, kind of showing the connectivity, that he was sending them messages and messages back, and then little kids were in the back seat. So it was actually really cool. And I gotta tell you, it was like, you talk to the students, go out to the CAPS program, that's really cool. I think it's something that people could maybe even use. And believe me, when we went into the conversation, we were not talking about apps for, to send out to give kids rides. So these really cool ideas just came out from this kind of a conversation. Oh, great. So at this point, we should have a prototype that everybody has put together. And this is just an opportunity for you and your partner to talk about what worked,
What do you think could be improved? What questions do you have? What new ideas do you have? Because as we know with any type of process like this, we're really never done. We're always going to be improving.